Papua? Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting, the October 10th regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. Item 1 on the agenda is the Woodbridge Board of Education. I would invite up Superintendent Robert Gilbert. Good evening.
Thank you, First Selectman. How are you doing?
Welcome. Doing great.
Good. Just going to give you,
Thank
as
you.
you do, or when it's applicable, just recent copies of our parent update that we sent out recently. Enjoy that, and I'll give my report, which is fairly brief tonight. So as I mentioned last month, and now I can say it with 1 month more in the rears here, we have a school year that's fully underway. At this point in time, we have both new and returning students who are involved in a myriad of activities and learning and academic growth. Also, as you know, running consistently strong is our enrollment, which continues to stand at 846 students. In terms of budget news, our last Finance Committee meeting was in September. We have another one coming up next week, but from our September Finance Committee meeting, we do show that we're running a special education deficit of $110,000. That's really in two parts. Part of that is the $50,000 reduction that took place in the budgeting process from the town last year. And the other $60,000 is a result of changes to different programs and services that are required for students who are outplaced at the current time. So that what makes up the $110,000. We also have a slight deficit in our regular education budget right now. This is due to increases in our liability and workman's comp insurance premiums.
Sorry, what was that?
Workman's comp and liability.
The amount in the category?
That's around $30,000 total. It's still early in the year, so but I just thought I'd let you know that's the latest news from our finance subcommittee meeting. We are getting ready to present our capital budget to the board finance subcommittee on Monday, as well as to the full board on Monday. Those meetings are back to back, and I would just say, as we get ready to bring that to all of you later on in the fall, just expect to see a little more robust and full accounting of some of the building and grounds needs that are present at Beecher Road School. The additions to the plan that you're going to see coming up in the fall are really partly as a result of the independent facility assessment that we did recently, conducted by our consultant Jim Sisa, which we really took a real full accounting of the full building and grounds. This is even in addition to the HVAC process that we've been talking about in recent meetings as well. So we'll present the full details of that to you when our turn is at the podium for that in the fall. In terms of Board of Education updates, our class size ad hoc committee has completed their work, and they're going to report back to the full board this coming Monday at the regular meeting. We also have two other ad hoc committees that are either in process or will be in process. One is our enrichment committee, which continues to meet and will report back to the board in November. And we also have a sustainability ad hoc committee, which is getting ready to get started. We'll be talking about that at the board meeting this coming Monday. And these are all in addition, obviously, to our other regular subcommittees of policy, curriculum, finance, and facilities. You may have heard that the Dectron unit at the school, this is the dehumidification unit that services the Beecher pool, had to be shut down recently. The shutdown was due to what I would call a bearing problem. The bearings, there are two bearings in the unit. We had a full inspection of the unit last week. We are in the process of ordering parts for the repair, and the process of repair will be completed in about 3 to 4 weeks. This has not interrupted the pool use at all. The pool continues to be in operation. We do not anticipate that there will be any interruption at this point to any of the groups that meet, WAC and all of those. And we expect this will be repaired, as I mentioned, in 3 to 4 weeks fully. In the last meeting we were at here, we also spoke about and acted upon the engineering process and report that's taking place with Van Zelm, the contractor Van Zelm. And this, again, is resulting of the humidity problems we had over the summer, as well as the issues we had with the freezing over the last winter. So just as a progress update, Van Zelm has been progressing in their testing. They've been doing some observations, some testing both on-site and remotely. They have actually captured the benefit of this week's unseasonable heat and humidity, which is a good thing because we want to try to capture exactly what it's like when the building is at temperatures and humidity that are not opportune. Bill Donald, who is the one who's doing this work, does not have much to report at this point, but he is anticipating a preliminary report in 3 to 4 weeks. So when we have that, we will share that with the Board of Ed and with you at the most timely time we can do that. In terms of programs and activities, I'd like to just thank again the PTO. The PTO provides what we call PTO socials for every grade level, and some of you have experienced this in your past with your kids, and it's a great way for parents to meet other parents, for kids to meet other kids, Friday night kind of opportunities. They do it by grade level, and so I want to thank the PTO for what they do. And also want to recognize that the PTO and I did a joint evening last week. It was called the Superintendent's Academy / PTO meeting. And the PTO had an opportunity to talk a little bit about their programs and a little bit about what they do and how their fundraising benefits our children and our students. And also we had a featured topic that evening called Internet Safety. We featured our Technology Director, James Crawford, as well as our health educator, Ariane Buzzard. They had a chance to talk to parents and tell them a little bit about what do we teach the kids about internet safety in those two classes, whether it's tech class or health class. And then we also brought in a featured guest speaker, Patrick Griffin, who's one of our Connecticut State's attorneys. And Patrick spoke about how parents can maximize internet safety at home in terms of different techniques, strategies, and keeping their kids safe from the internet and issues that obviously we all know about through very, very horrific issues in the news. So it was a very well received evening. We wish more parents had been there, but we did have a number of parents there and a number of staff members there, and it was a great evening of education for parents. And just finally, there's a couple of great things happening in October. I'd just like to thank again the fire department and the Greater Woodbridge community for sponsoring Truck or Treat. The Truck or Treat event will obviously benefit all of our students at Beecher Road School, and it's a great community outreach, and we thank them for that. And of course, the great Halloween Hoot event is coming up in a couple of weekends, and we're looking forward to that. And thank again the PTO for all they do for us. That's the end of my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
The HVAC situation. What's the update on that?
So that's the part that Van Zelm. So who's
Van Zelm?
Van Zelm is the engineering
Joe
company.
wasn't at the meeting last
okay,
month.
Joe.
No.
That's right, I'm sorry.
So
Okay, so we hired Van Zelm.
So at the last meeting, we determined that we needed to hire them as soon as possible to take advantage of the conditions and also to take a closer look at the systems that in the great humidity and temperatures that we have, as well as the freezing temperatures, what in our system is not working the way it should have been. So they are doing a full engineering report. They've started that, and as I mentioned, in 3 or 4 weeks they will have Bill Donald is the actual front person for Van Zelm, and they were recommended by Jim Sisa to us, and so he's started his work, and we're hoping to hear that back soon as to what steps. There will be a report and a series of recommendations that will come out of that. Some things are pretty obvious, but I don't want to steal his thunder until he gets that report done.
Okay, sorry to rehash that.
No problem.
But we just spent a bunch of money to put that system in, right? A couple of years ago.
3 years.
3 years ago, correct.
Have we ever determined why it's not functioning properly?
We're in the process,
That's-
what
we're hoping.
they're gonna be doing.
So we hired another.
Yep.
We had a owner's rep when we did that project. Right?
We had.
John Ford, I think his name was.
He wasn't here.
John Rice.
John Rice.
John Rice.
John Rice, right.
AKF.
AKF, they
And he
were our
came up
owners.
And he's looking at it as well, but we decided to, I think the board wanted to hire an independent evaluation of the systems to see whether there was any defect, any improper design.
So once we know that, we'll know where to go with it.
We'll know where to go.
Correct.
All right.
Right.
Okay. Sorry.
No, not at
that's
all.
a rehash, 'cause I
Actually,
missed
if you hadn't been here the last meeting, then now you're up to date.
Joe, we're
Thanks.
looking into whether it was properly maintained, whether it's
Right,
properly designed.
We don't know yet, so
We
it's
don't
Van
know.
Zelm is doing it,
Right.
okay.
So,
Good.
am I understanding correctly, we're $140,000 deficit after the first month? that?
Right.
And it's primarily
Right.
110 of which is special
Right.
ed. Is
So
there
110 is
any-
special ed, and at the 110 special ed, 50,000 is, if you might remember, how the Board of Finance decided to reduce the board's budget by $50,000 in the special ed area, and held $50,000. I'll get the technicalities wrong here. Tony can fill in, but there's $50,000 being held from another fund in the event that we need to use it or not. So we're not nearly to the end of the year. Obviously, we're just starting the year off. So, but 50,000 of the 110 is from the reduction that we received by the Board of Finance, and 60,000 is due to changes in programs and things that we have to do for kids who are already outplaced. Changes in their programs, additions to what they have required.
Do you see any, I mean, how do you see this going as the year progresses? Is it something that we need to address, or it's just a matter of wait and see?
There's usually a give and take. Hopefully there's more take than give. But what I will say is that student programs change. Sometimes students end up being outplaced, which is to our deficit. Sometimes changes happen where students come out of their outplacement and back to the regular home school, or they may move. So sometimes there are fluctuations in that. We have very little leeway in terms of the decisions that are made at PPT meetings that legally govern what a student is going to receive or not receive. The IEP, the Individual Education Program, is a legally binding document. So what happens in those meetings, it's not like we can say, sorry, we're not going to do it because we don't have the money. These are things that if the student is needing of it and it's determined, then it has to happen. So how do I see it going? It's hard to know how the crystal ball is going to play out
From
this
a
year.
perspective standpoint, I don't have a lot of it from previous years, but is this normal, if you will?
It is. I mean, and those of you who've sat on the board for a while, you'll know that this is a common theme that we've been talking about for the last few years. It's a common theme that's across other towns. Sometimes it rises and then sometimes it falls depending upon just circumstances. It's not unusual, and we're keeping an eye on it, and we're doing everything we can. I will also say that we also have had in the move-in process, so students moving into Woodbridge, moving into Beecher Road School, we have a certain set number of staff members, resource teachers for special education who are certified, also a certain number of teaching assistants who assist students, and these are their services are legally bound into an IEP program. We've had many students, more than I can count on one hand, move into town who've had dictated services that are requiring a one-on-one teaching assistant with them. So we have done everything we possibly can to maximize the number of people we have on our staff, but it was a huge influx. So we are actually grappling right now with how do we handle those, and we are looking at the reality of adding some teaching assistants to our regular budget in our regular building, not outplaced in our building, to deal with those needs and to meet those needs. So Woodbridge has gotten, and Beach Road School has gotten a particular, I guess, they're branded as a place to go. Let's go there. We service the kids well. And so we've had a lot of students move in unanticipated with needs. So that's probably more than you were asking for, but
Actually, I appreciate it.
if that helps to
Yeah.
kind of clarify that. We don't have a lot of control over that. Sometimes we do, but not much.
Changing gears a little bit, the Tectron unit I was with the recreation folks, and they had indicated that was repaired just 6 months ago.
That is correct.
Is there any recourse that's being either underway or considered or done? And Jerry, I know that there was some question as to limited warranty versus implied warranties and things of that nature, as to whether or not we could recoup anything as a result of that issue.
We had a meeting with Bob and Al Pulo, Tony and Beth and myself the other day about it, and we're looking at the possibility that there may be some fault with how the system is maintained, and we'll know a little bit better within the next week or so, even before the Van Zellen report probably.
Correct. And we changed maintenance people. We changed maintenance companies during the process of the last 2.5 years. So part of that is the complexity of who owns the repairs that didn't go right. So there's that part. Our priority has been to get this fixed so we don't have any interruption to the pool schedule and to the recreation department and to all the teams that are there. But as Jerry mentioned, to follow up, in an expedient way after that to see if there is anything we can do for recourse.
And Bob, I don't know if you mentioned this, but because I was looking at something, I think we pretty much determined that there was a repair that was not properly done.
Right.
Did you say that?
I'm not sure if I did, but it's true.
Okay, it's true. We have determined that there was a repair that was not properly done. And the question is there some responsibility by the company that we hired to maintain the system? Was some of the town's agents responsible for that? The board's agents responsible for that? And we're trying to sort that out now, but there was some improper maintenance, which we think and hope is the cause of the problems we're experiencing now. And once those improper repairs are fixed, everyone's keeping their fingers crossed that will be the salvation of getting the pool back into top shape.
Right.
Am I right?
That's correct. The cost of this current repair looks to be right now about $6,000.
To repair the bad repair.
Correct.
Is $6,000.
Right.
Another question on the special education deficit. Now, the special education program is state mandated, but not fully state funded.
Correct.
We got a big leak in there.
What?
It's a leak in the ceiling.
Ooh.
We got a spot there.
We have another HVAC system.
Yeah,
can we
was
send
a
bids
bad
on?
I
repair.
would turn off the air maybe?
Oh, there's like a pool of water.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
see
you can
it.
see it on the
Yeah.
side.
You might want to change your spot.
Yeah.
Condensation inside, yep. Would you like to move? Wanna come
I'm
this
gonna
way?
get a little cozier with Joe.
Oh dear.
You can come over to the dark side here.
It's not that bad.
So speaking of HVAC, go ahead.
So has the state remuneration changed over the past years with their budget issues, or no?
So Woodbridge gets a lower reimbursement overall for all kinds of things based upon economic standing, and so that there's factors there. Special education, we do get reimbursed through our excess cost grant, and those are the costs that are the larger budgeted costs. So we receive monies back from the state for per pupil costs for our students that we send outside of the district. I think it's 4.5 times what the actual tuition rate is that we have. And so those numbers have not changed dramatically that I'm aware of, but it's not a dollar for dollar. We don't get back from the state a dollar for every dollar we spend, so that's for sure. And it's state mandated. That's correct. It's not an option. There's a lot of advocacy that happens with parents for their children, make sure they have what they believe they need, and that comes in the form of advocates or sometimes attorneys and things like that. So it's a pretty complex and high-level kind of a process in many situations when it takes place.
Well, I mean, it's certainly a needed program.
Absolutely.
But it would seem that some of the towns are penalized, and the towns that are penalized are the towns that have a bigger expense.
True, and just to say, we don't have actually a lot of students, when you compare it to certain towns in the region, we don't have a lot of students who are placed out of the building. We do everything we can to keep them in the building, in their home environment, in their home school, in the least restrictive environment, at a lower cost. But when it's deemed necessary, this is what takes place.
But I think Woodbridge and Cheshire and maybe West Hartford or Simsbury proportionally spend more money on special education than a lot of the other towns and cities do.
I don't want to be misquoted, so I don't know. I'm not sure I can answer that right now. But
No, it's not a question.
Yeah, it's a statement.
But it's a statement. It would seem like those towns are getting penalized on both ends.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, both for taking more children and also getting less back.
And,
in the
and
state.
the overall reimbursement rates for towns like ours and the towns you've mentioned are lower
Mhm.
than towns, urban towns,
Right.
or towns that are close to being urbanized.
All right, well.
I don't think we have a choice in terms of taking
No, we
children,
don't.
as you
I know,
say.
no, I'm not saying
It's
we
not
have a
as
choice,
if
I'm just
you
saying
said we
that
take more children, and I'm thinking, these are kids that live in our town and we are responsible to educate them. Okay.
That's not what I'm
Okay.
saying. I'm saying at the state level, this seems to be kind of wrong-headed, that the towns that attract more special ed kids are reimbursed at a lower rate.
Okay.
Yeah, and they spend more money.
And actually, now I hear, Dave, now I hear what you're saying, and it is true that there is an attraction component, in towns like ours, where people do feel that quality is something, quality in whatever direction you want, wherever your child is, so
Sure.
there is an attraction there,
We do a good job, and I'm proud of it.
right? Right, and the word gets
Okay.
out. And,
Enough
and
said.
that's why, and again, we're in a little bit of an anomaly. Our enrollment is growing, where most districts are stagnant or declining, and not only our overall enrollment is growing, but our special education population has grown in the 3 years I've been here. It's gone from 10 to 11 to 12%. I'm not sure where we're actually going to end up this year. So it's all kind of together.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
See you at the hoop.
Sure will.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is the old firehouse, and I see David Stein in the audience. Welcome, come on up, how are you?
Hands out. Actually, I need one of those. You now share.
Yeah, you kinda do.
Here's a handout for you. Passing out a budget for this project. It was handed out last time, but this is an update for you.
Thank you.
So, just as some background to this project, we've discussed this, we discussed it a few months ago, and we're sort of at a point where we need to make a decision on how to move forward. We have a State of Connecticut STEEP grant, which is $500,000. You see it in the revenue side of the budget, and we need to spend those funds. Their grant is expiring soon. So the question is whether we just do enough work to spend the grant, or do we do a more comprehensive project? So that we have and you can see the project is broken down into several sections. We specifically did that so that you can sort of get an idea of how much each part costs, in case you want to make adjustments on whether you want to do a portion of the building or the whole building. So-
What's included in the base bid?
So the base bid, and Dave could certainly chime in, I know the base bid has the mechanicals, has the elevator, has, the fire suppression system, right,
Correct.
Dave? Bathrooms, maybe?
Yeah, so the general scope of work involves mainly interior. We're not adding the additions to the building or doing any significant site work, so it's really an interior renovation. The majority of the work, as Tony mentioned, one of the largest items is the HVAC system that equates for about $200,000 of the overall work.
What
and that's
system, David, I'm sorry?
the heating, ventilation, air
HVAC.
conditioning, the HVAC system. There's electrical work which supports all that new work, so we are improving the electrical from its switchgear, which is essentially its main electrical distribution system, and so forth. We are doing sprinklers, so the building will be fully sprinklered. So that takes up a good portion, probably more than a third or more of the overall piece of it. We are doing some finish work where we have new gypsum board walls, ceilings, painting. We are doing some waterproofing, some minor roofing work, which is associated in putting new air handlers up on the roof. We also have some carpentry work that we are doing. There is some minor concrete work, repairs, demolition of any of the existing pieces that are there, equates for about $60,000 of it, and so forth. So that's pretty much the bulk of the work. Is the things you don't always see that are behind the scenes are the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection.
So we looked at what it makes, if we were to do a portion, would it make sense, and your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, you know, the intent was to convert a building that was originally designed as a firehouse, to be able to convert it, to give you the flexibility to use this for many uses. The range of uses would be assembly space, which is essentially meeting space, office space, fitness area, meeting rooms, town community type of use. So by reworking the building, its infrastructure, improving the code deficiencies that currently exist in the building, such as stairs and means of egress, the elevator, pieces of all of those components, bathrooms along with the HVAC system, now gives you a building that you can purpose depending on what you want to bring in there. Because the reality of buildings like this is that you're not just, you may have a use for it today, but this is a building that's intended, and the systems are intended to last a lot longer than that. So in 5 years you may interchange this, and the design, those bays are flexible enough for you to essentially do that. So we've discussed how could you now pick pieces apart and divide it, and you can't. You need the essentials, which is the mechanical systems. You could segregate it, and we talked about that, but we've bid the project twice already. We've been in front of this group a few times, trying to find ways to slice it into small pieces and get the price to where we think we could. And our recommendation is that you're gonna spend more down the line if you try to divide it and say, take 20%, try to save 20%, you're gonna spend that twofold down the line to try to make that work. So this gives you the structure to keep that building intact and the ability for you now to repurpose it depending on what that need wants to be. The flexibility is there. It's a sprinkler system, so you now have the code ability to do it in many different ways.
The other thing I want to bring to your attention is we had talked about possibly the high school, the school district using the second floor. There are improvements in second floor construction related to that, and this scenario here assumes where the town would pay for the entire project and then have some sort of agreement going forward in terms of a rental agreement or a lease
So
agreement.
that 324.
That's the 324.
That contemplates that?
Yeah, that's the
Are we
work.
still, or is the estimate still upwards of $200,000 a year that's saved by doing that, if the high school does indeed do that, or has that been changed?
We'd have to get more information from the high school and on that, but
I think that's
Well,
what Chip said
that's
when he
what
was
he
here, it
originally
was
said
like
when he was
$250
here.
million
It's
Right.
for
two
1
to
year,
250.
because we have to outpace these students, and we just heard Doug Gilbert say that our special ed is increasing, which,
Some of the options, as I understand it, that some of the kids might have to be outplaced for certain things,
right,
so it isn't complete savings.
and we
If I understand
that's
that
correct, yeah.
correctly, yeah.
And we would have a revenue
So it's
stream
maybe not
attached.
that whole
year,
amount.
correct? It's not a one-time thing, it's every year.
Yeah.
Right.
You pay this
Mhm.
fee
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
these students, so.
And so the town would have a revenue stream associated with the lease agreement with this. That's
My
one way to do
understanding
that,
of
is to offset the.
was, forgetting, looking at it from the Amity standpoint and the Amity savings, because that's a whole different district, whole different conversation,
Right.
whole different budget. Our consideration was we were engaging them in discussions to enter into a long-term lease for that space, like you
That's
say,
correct.
year after year.
That's correct.
To see if we could amortize that
Which
into
you-
paying for
Correct,
it.
that's what I was getting at, right,
Right.
yeah. So
Because
a
without
portion
that,
of
this is a hefty deal.
right, a portion of the debt service that you would be paying for the project would be paid for by the lease,
Right.
essentially.
But they went, they're not, I don't know, are they interested in that? I guess is the question, do they remain interested in leasing?
Yes, it's my understanding
Yes.
they are.
They do?
Yes.
Okay.
They chose not to do it this year.
Right.
They were possibly going to be at center school, but the space wasn't correct for their use, so they're out again. But they are definitely still interested in coming back, as I understand it.
So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg scenario here, where I mean, we have to do the work, we don't quite have a lease agreement, we haven't done the,
So,
you know.
so we have to spend we have to spend that when, like now, pretty much.
We need to be under contract by January or something.
So now, and I think at one time we had talked about using that just to do some of the basic mechanicals over there, like.
Right, that's what, well,
To
that's
get
what
that spent.
That's what we were
Yeah.
talking about, but that,
And I think the numbers begin to show that you can't really segregate one piece without getting, you need to do another piece. So I can't do the HVAC system without doing the electrical system, and then once I'm there, if we're gonna bring fire protection system in later, for example, well, now I'm gonna be reworking around what you just spent money on.
Yeah.
So I don't wanna be short-sighted, and I guess that's the biggest point. When you end up doing this, you try to project where you think you'll be in the future, and most of the time, we don't nail it because it's just impossible to do. So get the infrastructure done now, and that's the bulk of this work. This isn't really a cosmetic component. It's getting it ready so you have the flexibility of entering and then repurposing that second floor for educational use or business use or assembly use or so forth.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm sorry. But it seems like to spend 500, we're now spending 2 million. And we're looking to borrow 1.4
that,
for a building that we've gotten through many years without having to use. I'm not trying to
2006.
advocate
The fire
against
was
it.
in 2006.
I'm just trying to,
12 years, here we are.
Well, yeah, but now we have a $7.5 million that
Yep.
replaced that, and in the meantime,
Yep.
we haven't really had a terrific need for that, although I know the fire folks think, they want, but,
Well, we actually have a couple of opportunities for people to use the building. As I
yeah.
mentioned way back about a year ago, when people came to me, the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society would like to use the part of the building.
They wanna pay for it?
They have no money, no.
Okay, so that doesn't help me.
Okay, I'm just saying, there's a space. Amity is willing to pay.
Right, but, so that was, the thought always was this looks a
Right.
lot more attractive in terms of, I understand what you're saying, but in terms of financing and as a business deal, it makes it a lot more attractive if you have the business already committed to go and help you pay for this,
and we've had several discussions and there's an
Yeah.
indication that there's an
So
interest.
if it does, but if they all don't pan out, we got $2 million
That's-
into this building.
That's correct.
We hope to use it at some point for some purpose.
Speaking of the 2 million, obviously $500,000 is a steep grant, but it leaves about $500,000, another 325 for the second floor, which wasn't originally. It's still 1.2 million dollars.
Yeah.
Just again, from a perspective standpoint, is there something about this building that requires that level of renovation, interior renovation? I mean, it just strikes me as, I'm not a builder
Yeah.
or an architect, as a significant amount of money for
Yeah.
renovation of a building like that.
I think unfortunately, when you're not in the business directly, you realize that the cost to build is pretty expensive these days. I think we could just relate to the cost of building homes and what it costs to build a regular, single-family home is
You could
is
get a pretty good home
expensive.
for $1.2 million. You could put up a pretty good structure.
You can. The difference is we're a commercial building and we're under a different set of code. You're trying to repurpose a 1927, 1930s era building that was originally designed as a firehouse.
Excuse me for interrupting, just out of curiosity, is it historical? Somebody's asked that.
Yes,
and
part
it is,
of it
okay.
is, I think.
So you're now trying to
I don't know if it's
repurpose
an
and
historical
fit
building
in.
or if it's in a historical district.
It's an historic district.
District, okay.
Okay.
It's in a district, historical district, but not a historical building.
Right.
So you're dealing with a building that was built at that time, that was intended, that had one stairway essentially, and that worked at that time. We now need 2 means of egress. When the code now contemplates that you have the difference between a business use, you need to fire separate a business use from an assembly use. Assembly is a room similar to this, that you could have multiple people in, from a small group to a large group. You need to contemplate that, and that's where the sprinkler system comes into play, which you don't have or are required in a residential residential facility. The mechanical systems are complex because in our home, we have one unit that's in the attic and you turn it on and set the temperature. This, you're gonna have multiple uses, so upstairs may be used differently than downstairs. So it's designed in a way so you're not consuming too much energy.
I get all that, but just so in your estimation, what you're saying is that there's nothing extraordinary about this building, these are just basic
These are
costs that are associated with
Yes.
doing the type of work we're looking to have done.
Yes.
So if it's not a historical building, why couldn't we knock it down and build something smaller for, just say, the transition program? I'm just wondering, can you do that?
This,
Well,
I could tell you this, the steep grant didn't contemplate knocking the building
Yeah.
down,
that's
so
really the
I
question.
could tell you that probably,
We'll lose the 500,000
The steep
perhaps
grant.
from the steep grant.
You wouldn't be able to build a building of that size for 1.1 million. It would be a smaller.
I don't know why we need a building that size though, cause I'm hearing meeting space. We have that huge meeting space above the fire, in the fire department on the second floor, which never gets used. So that's state-of-the-art meeting space. We have center for our annual town meetings, center school. That the old fire department it's not large enough to accommodate a townwide meeting. What meeting space
No.
would we need it for? I'm just curious.
the Amity program.
The Amity program was intended to go to the
It's
second.
really
That was only the second floor they were talking about. They were talking about
But
putting
that's-
like a
that's the
museum on the first floor and then using the
Was
second
it
floor for the
museum?
transition program.
it was originally contemplated, for the fitness center to move there,
Yeah,
years ago,
well, and partially the fire and then the fit, we
Right.
had
correct.
And there's
It's
two or
still
three
being-
uses
it's
on
still
the
being
bottom
used
floor,
for
and the top
fire
floor
and-
was.
Correct.
programs like
Yeah.
Bill Bills,
In the,
things of that
right,
nature.
fire department in one bay, right.
It just,
I personally think we should figure out a way to bring in something that's
Committee.
gonna be revenue
Yeah, pretty much,
producing,
yeah.
since we're gonna be
Well, we
putting
got
out
Amity, that's one thing.
that, I mean, that makes sense to me.
yeah, that all makes sense. The problem is, I don't think we can strike that deal before January when we have to make a decision, cause we have to spend this 500,000. So,
Right.
we're either gonna do it or not do it
Correct.
on the basis of,
The potential.
an anticipation that we
That's right.
can, but I think we would have an
That's-
agreement, hopefully, that we try to get paying uses in there
Right.
to help
Yes.
amortize this out.
Yeah.
There was an architectural committee that worked with you for a couple of years, a few years before I was here, that sort of thought it was probably a good idea to go forward and do it all at once, or am I mistaken? Did I?
I think we had a
Dream that
professional,
up.
didn't we have a professional
We
study
did.
that was
We had a-
done once
there was a
on
committee.
potential uses of the building?
There was, and there was
I was
a
on that
committee also.
committee, the Cruff committee or something,
Yeah.
and it was.
You hired outside professionals.
We
to
did.
do
We
it.
did,
Yeah.
we used, Brian Humes?
Brian Humes, yeah.
Yes, right, who did the carport. And
I
he
wonder-
guided this committee through, and the recommendations, I believe, of that committee was meeting space,
Fitness center.
the fitness
Fitness
center over
center,
there.
That was also because we were talking at the time about
Maybe a cafe.
the renovation to the police
station, right?
and then
That's
they
right.
take over.
That's
that.
correct.
They take over that area.
That's correct, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah. There are a couple of points I wanted to make. First has to do with it not being an historic building. Now, it could be qualified as an historic building, and that would be something that maybe Sheila could look into. It's 50 years old, and it is characteristic of a certain period style. So, just on the basis of that.
When we did the exterior portion of the building, it was very much considered when we did the windows, which were done in the original style,
The roof.
the roof. We spent actually more than we would have if we had just put regular windows in, because they were constructed in a certain manner.
To retain
If
the
there was,
historic-
if there was major renovations to the exterior of the building, based on the nature of your $500 steep grant, SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, would have some oversight of it, even though it may not be deemed on their historical registry. They would still have some general oversight of the building based on its age. Our building code, in terms of demolition, any buildings over 50 years old needs to go through a process if you are planning on demolishing them. So just based on its age, there needs to be some consideration to any work that's done on the exterior of the building. The work that's being done on the interior doesn't
Right, I understand that.
come into play, at least in context of this project.
But you could attempt to get this building designated as an historic place, and then it would be eligible for some grant money.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I'm not 100% sure whether this was passed into law or it's just being discussed at the state level, but the special ed program, the transition program, is contemplated to be expanded to children at a lower age, because the explanation I heard was that starting at 18 does not give parents and students enough time to prepare for transition. So if they roll it back to 16 or maybe even 14, there'd be a greater need for this transition program, and we could tap into that. So, 2 points.
Is it possible to understand the requirements of the high school, the Amity need, in consideration of how this is done, just with thought of what David just said in terms of expansion and or what needs to be done? I mean, are they able to give us some?
I thought they
Prior-
did, didn't they?
We
talked about it.
we did.
Yeah, I thought we had
They were
talked
on
about
board
it.
until they weren't on board.
But
Right, but I mean, I
don't know if
thought there was,
everything's
we
changed.
had showed them plan, they were okay with what we were gonna do, that's my recollection. They thought that space
We
would
thought it was
be,
great, yeah.
would be
We're here.
fine for their needs.
It's life skills,
Based on
as I
our
understand
plans.
it, and they had
That's
thoughts
correct.
as to how they were going to use the
Mhm.
space
Right.
to teach life skills to
Right.
18 to
Correct.
21-year-olds. I think they
But that
were
would solve,
Yes, it was-
that
comfortable.
would solve the problem.
What?
That would solve the problem
Right.
if we had an ongoing contract.
Right.
If we
Well,
had a
we
long-term-
hope to do that.
That's our goal.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we have to sort of
In the
move forward with
meantime,
the process
We
here.
have to make-
not do it,
Right.
or we have to do it with the anticipation that
Right.
we're gonna turn it into, we're gonna make money to pay for this
Right.
out of that building.
Right, correct,
Because otherwise we just have more debt in another building.
Yep.
true.
Are we looking to figure out if we're gonna vote to spend the 1.4 right now?
How very
Well, what would happen is if the direction to do that, we would put together the documents that we typically do when you borrow money, which is a bond resolution, and we put all that together, and then at an agenda on a later date, it would all be presented for your approval, just like you did with the radio. Same process, if that's the direction you wanted to go in.
Is it possible from a process standpoint to ask to have that move forward? And in the meantime, see
Talk
if we
to
can
Ann.
get,
Sure,
see if we can get the
we could
Board
do
of
parallel
Education
tracks, absolutely.
here,
Yeah.
so that by maybe our next meeting,
Yeah.
we'll have some input in that
Sure.
and
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
finalize.
Definitely,
The Amity on the agenda for the next meeting.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I know they talked about it, Sheila, at one of the Board of Ed meetings.
Right.
Okay,
Works for me.
So
In fact, why
is-
don't you call
is
them
that
tomorrow
a-
and see if they're still,
yeah.
do we need a motion to do so? Is that in the form of a motion? Would you like to put that in form of a
Sure.
motion?
I'll make a motion that we consider, or we request to have Tony and the proper resources, put together the necessary paperwork for the bonding that's required.
Okay.
And with consideration of hearing at least what the opportunity is for the Amity Board of Education to utilize that, to lease that space from the town.
I'll second.
I don't know. Sounds good, okay. Any discussion? We got a motion and a second.
So I guess we're just telling Tony, by way of motion, to bring us back the info on the bonding
Correct.
and to try to start
We
negotiations.
will,
For the
right, we
lease
can
of
do
the
that
space.
with your
And
permission.
get them here so we
Absolutely.
can talk to them
Yep.
and understand it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Okay.
Thank you. Unanimous. Okay, great.
Thank you, David.
Thank you,
Okay,
David.
thanks, Dave.
Item 3, first selectmen's report. I'm gonna be quick. Few items. Later on the agenda this evening, we're gonna discuss a new proposal that we received for the former Country Club of Woodbridge property. As I had previously reported to the selectmen, we were waiting to hear back from Robert Sachs, who's the developer of Fieldstone Village in Orange. We will discuss possible negotiations of this in executive session, because it's the first time we're looking at this offer as a board After executive session, should it be the board's desire to move this proposal forward, we will keep the public informed of any new steps. Tonight at 7 o'clock, the town will host the first of 2 flood information meetings for the public who may have been impacted by the severe weather or flooding which occurred on the 25th, 26th of September, a couple weeks ago. The state of Connecticut is undertaking an initial damage assessment to estimate the damage loss sustained by municipalities as well as private property owners, residents, and businesses. The data we collect at these meetings and submit will be used to determine whether damages resulting from this event are significant enough to request a joint federal-state preliminary damage assessment and potentially a request for federal recovery assistance. I must emphasize to the public, as those here tonight, there is no guarantee that funding will be granted. The town of Woodbridge is asking all residents and businesses who suffered damages to please attend one of these 2 information sessions, tonight from 7 to 8 at the Center Gym, and October 11th tomorrow from 8:30 to 9:30 here at Town Hall. Please refer to the town website for more information. Sheila's going to be leaving our meeting a few minutes before 7 to staff that meeting. She will be the contact person for the public on this. So she'll go over to the Center Gym to staff the meeting, as I said. On September 17th, I attended the Amity Finance Committee and the Amity Board of Education meeting, along with my fellow First Selectmen, Derry Gorski of Bethany and Jim Zioli of Orange. We asked that the Amity District return all surplus funds from last year to the town, rather than set aside 1% of these funds at a special district meeting. Ultimately, the Amity Board of Ed decided against holding the district meeting, so we expect that all funds will be returned to the towns, I guess actually, plural. And we estimate we'll have the money sometime in January. Woodbridge will receive approximately $951,326 once the Amity audit is complete. The Town Planning Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing regarding the adoption of proposed zoning regs for the town of Woodbridge on September 20th. TP&Z is holding that hearing open and will meet again to consider the act on these proposed regulations on Monday, October 15th at 7 o'clock at the Senior Cafe at Center Building. As a reminder, we have posted these proposed regulations and a map to the town website for public review. I'd also like to update you on some staffing adjustments for Betsy Yagla and Sheila McCrevin in the Office of First Selectman here at Town Hall. In addition to thanking and extending my appreciation for their efforts to cover while Jerry Shaw is out, she's doing very well, by the way, on medical leave. Talked to her yesterday, she's doing great. I'm also excited about a new focus area my office will be taking on to move economic development efforts forward. I want to emphasize our commitment to our business district and efforts to grow the grand list in this regard, so I'm pleased to announce the higher profile of these efforts we'll be taking. Within current resources for my office, I have reallocated staff time to better align with priorities. In addition to her work on grants, Sheila will be taking on more aspects of the communications role that Betsy had previously in her job description, including the website and additional outreach efforts to keep the community informed. This will free up more of Betsy's time so she can focus on economic development efforts. I hope that having Betsy as an economic development point person will make it easier for businesses to get the information and resources they need to thrive and grow and come to Woodbridge. A couple of extra items that I took part in this past month. On October 3rd, I attended the Human Services Living Treasures Award dinner. We had 3 servers. Selectmen Cardozo, Crisco, and Lober were servers, yay. Well done. We tipped well.
Indeed.
And I saw Joe in the audience. We were there, right? Yeah, I thought I saw you. I didn't get a chance to get over and say hello. I think we all enjoyed this very successful evening, and again, we express our appreciation for those who made this dinner happen, and also our congratulations to the recipients. On October 6th, I attended the first of many Fallapalooza events that will take place this month. The Kids Fun Run and Woodbridge Road Race this past Saturday. Both were very highly successful, as usual. Kudos, and check the town website for details of the upcoming Fallapalooza activities, and at your place is what's coming up. If you're welcome to attend any, as is the public, and the public can check the website for further updates. And with that, I will move to, we're still okay, liaison reports. Terry, start this end this time.
All right, so Bob just gave us an update at, the Woodbridge Board of Ed. I will be going to the Monday meeting coming up next week, and hopefully we'll have some more information about the HVAC system then. Amity Board of Ed, was very happy to announce the new superintendent, who accepted the position, Dr. Jennifer Byers, and she comes to us from Ledyard. And it sounds like they, in Ledyard are gonna miss her. So it looks like we're gonna be getting a great asset to our town and our school district. And she's starting the 15th of November. So, yeah, we're excited about that.
Good, thank you. Joe?
Well, thank you very much. Reporting on the ad hoc tree committee for the beautification of Town Green, I'm pleased to report that the board has unanimously agreed to all participate in the funding of a tree.
Good idea you had, thank you.
We all shared it. And our finance director is looking into the placing of appropriate plaque at the site, you know, noting that the Board of Selectmen individually have all contributed to this project.
Thank you.
In regards to planning and zoning, couple of things. There was a proposal that was approved to re-subdivide the Crest property and the New England Brewing property. There's no change in either business. They will stay on site, and that was approved by the commission. As was mentioned by the first selectwoman, there will be a public hearing on Monday, October 15th at 7 in the Senior Cafe for the continued discussion of revisions to the zoning regulations. I believe that they all are somewhat more trying to bring them up to date than any major change. In regards to the Board of Police Commissioners, last night our staffing was increased by one through the oath of office to Officer Lima, and this brings us up to a total of 21 with one other position to be filled, unless there may be a retirement or two. The Chief of Police reported that the No Shave November project will continue. This is where they raise money for charity. Also, they are looking at the purchase of a license plate reader. Woodbridge seems to be behind all the other towns in regards to this technology, and they hope to use funds out of the capital budget. In regards to the hiring, we're still short one, as I mentioned before, but they do have an outstanding candidate that they are speaking to. They're going to begin their capital budget preparation. There is a need for the facility renovation, which could be substantial, and they're also looking at a computer upgrade. And in regards to vehicle replacement, normally they replace 2 vehicles a year. This coming year they only will replace 1. And also in regards to the canvassing incident that was experienced a little while ago, the finding was that there was no racial bias, but still the chief is committed to training the workforce in regards to sensitivity to racial concerns. And that should be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mika?
Met with the rec commission, met late last month, and there was considerable discussion in regards to the Dectron unit that Dr. Gilbert mentioned earlier. So they were really pushing hard to see if they can get that resolved as quickly as possible, because it is impacting, although it hasn't closed it.
Still warm enough that
Right.
they don't need to.
Exactly. The weather has been
Right,
very cooperative,
right.
and that's been helping a lot. So they're hoping that gets done quickly.
Mm-hmm.
There was a question, they did specifically ask us a question as relates to the proposal at the Country Club of Woodbridge, as relates to the pool. As to the proposal that's in there now is whether the the folks who are doing the work will manage the pool. They said they would renovate it, well, they would also manage the pool, or whether that would still be left to the town and the recreation department to do. It's
Is
just
this
a question
related to a
of-
specific proposal for the country club, or?
This is, yes, it's related to the,
Oh, okay.
the
Right.
proposal for the
Right,
Brian St.
okay,
Pierre,
okay.
the Brian St.
Yeah.
Pierre proposal.
Okay,
There also would like they're going to ask for consideration or the possibility of adding putting in an ice rink at Pease Road, since it will be taken off of the Fitzgerald property. And there is a good deal of concern, that could also double as parking for the bagel run. They were indicating it could serve dual purposes depending on how it's done. I think the preference is concrete versus asphalt, but they also, there is concern as relates to the north tennis courts at Beecher Road School. It's been roped off, or it's been quadrant off right now because it's in poor state, and as to whether or not there's potential for that to be corrected or fixed. And one of the commissioners, Smith Mowry, is developing a plan and a budget for a triathlon at Beecher School for the K through 6 organization. And from what he's described, it sounds like it could be a tremendous, very fun type of activity. So they're working on that as well at this point.
it's ambitious, a triathlon, wow.
See, he's done it before,
Cool.
and so it does sound like it would be a lot of fun. And it seems like there's a good amount of interest so
Thank you.
far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe?
I wasn't able to get to any of my.
Okay. I'm getting there. You're chomping at the bit. You get, no.
No, it's you.
No, you're next. I didn't skip, I went. And then I started that in this way in. Okay.
You just wanted me to
Well,
get
I'm
you.
calling on you next. Next time, first time. November meeting. I will remember. Go for it.
With the Library Commission, about the loss of the ash tree. The commission would like to be included in the decision-making process to replace the ash tree that was lost to the emerald ash borers. They would like a tree of
Okay.
appropriate size
They knew about it ahead of time.
and beauty.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that's very appropriate.
Yes, since it was an architectural feature of the design of the
Certainly,
library.
you know
Okay.
that, and
Okay.
I wish it could have been saved.
Well, it couldn't.
I know.
Okay.
We tried.
They had a
years.
flood. The building was flooded during the September storm, but thanks to a rapid response by building maintenance, no damage was done. Foot School is contemplating using the library parking lot as a pickup and drop-off site for 12 students, 7:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon respectively. This would have to be coordinated with snow removal, which occurs in the early morning. This is the first you're hearing of this.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is
You haven't heard about this at all, Betsy, where I'm looking. You heard about it?
Okay.
Briefly.
Oh, cool. Okay, keep going.
Okay. The commission also needs a new
Okay.
Board of Finance representatives to replace Susan Jacobs, who has resigned her position. I understand is
It's been done.
touring the world. Okay.
Yep.
Human Services, the ramp and restroom work is either started or will start imminently. They are also looking, they're researching a replacement van for one of their vehicles. 80% of the cost would be paid through a state grant. They're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $65,000 for that vehicle. Coop-up, there was a report on invasive species that emphasized that these plants are not native. They spread rapidly and outcompete native species, and they include Norway maples, euonymus Russian olive, and barberry. The last is involved in the tick cycle and is especially problematic. Mountain laurel is a recommended replacement. The Sustainability Connecticut program application has been completed and submitted. Jeff Coughlin from the TPZ summarized zoning regulations. Said that they will, quote, stay as they are with no change in density, no T4 or T5 zones, no in-law apartments, and the saving of trees and stone walls. Conservation Commission representative said the commission has an intent to secure 1875 Litchfield Turnpike to protect the watershed. And they were in the process of identifying notable trees and are considering an agricultural commission.
Good, thank you. Perfect timing. Public comments. Anyone here for public comments?
No?
Hearing none, we'll move on. Okay. We're up to
Committee
item, do
reports.
you wanna skip committee reports and let these folks go and then they can get out of here?
Good idea.
Why don't we do that? You guys have been here since the beginning. If there's no objection from the board, we'll skip item, we won't skip it, we'll just come back to it. Item 5 and go to item 6. Any objection?
No. No.
Request to display a banner on the old firehouse triangle, Friends of the Woodbridge Library, and we have Mary Lee Barker here. And I see Donna Lehman here as well. Hi, guys, welcome. I'm impressed, June 2019.
We are back.
I'm like, wow. Talk about organization.
Thank you.
Last year,
Thank you very
you
much.
were so kind
Yep,
to approve our request for a banner to advertise, to announce our annual Friends of the Library book sale.
mhm,
So we are back with a similar request this year to place the banner, the same banner we used last year, which looks like this,
mhm.
which is safely stowed in the basement of the library, we hope. And we'd like to place that on that triangle by the old firehouse. This year's sale, it's always the first weekend in June, which actually this year starts May the 30th and runs through June the 4th. And we're asking your approval to place that banner around or about May the 9th of this year to announce our 5th annual book sale at the library, to benefit the library.
Just to get it started, I'll make a motion that we approve your request.
Second.
Does anyone have any questions or discussions? Sightline issues, and we'll, be back enough so people can pull over.
Yeah,
and
we
don't have any
yes,
insurance
we
issues
put in the
on
work
any of
order
this.
and
Great.
the
Right,
town
I mean,
puts
I
up the banner.
suppose we have someone who monitors that.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay. Any, all in favor? Thank you for hanging.
Thank you.
So,
You can have little, more little treats, little bookmarks from the library, so you know exactly where we're at when we're open. Come visit and bring your gently used books for our book sale.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did.
Yeah,
We're gonna be doing it again. There's a checkbook flying out again. Now what? Okay.
We work all year long. Okay.
It seems like a colossal waste of our time.
Item 7, you guys come up and then we'll go back to 5, because you guys are with the, bike guys, okay. I'm so formal, the bike guys. Bookmarks for everyone.
Bookmark, yeah.
Yep. This is the Laurel Bike Club, as I understand it?
Yeah, Laurel Bike Club.
Request to hold a trail cleanup event November 10th, and maybe you guys would introduce yourselves, because you're not listed on the agenda,
Sure.
please. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
My name is Kurt Daniello. I am owner and operator at Danielle's Amity Bikes in Woodbridge, and I'm also president of the Laurel Bicycle Club. This is Bruce Lindsay.
Hi.
Hello. He is one of our bike club tree and trail experts, is probably how I would put it. He is an arborist, and he could probably expand on that a little bit further. What we are hoping to do in town is host a trail day where we would do basic maintenance for a lot of the area trails. Woodbridge has, if you aren't aware, a plethora of trails that go in and out of town center and lead to neighboring towns. And we're hoping to take some minor responsibility and help clean them, remove basic debris, trash, and potentially invasives as well. A few major locations that we've considered or would like to work on are the blue trails known as Old Derby Trail and Eldersley in particular. These are the two that are in the worst shape. As of right now, we have a tentative date set for November 10th to do such trail maintenance.
Do you do it even weather permitting, or is it obviously?
No,
And pouring rain.
we would request a permit, rain or shine.
Okay.
We typically permit bicycle races. I am Laurel Bike Club's race promoter, licensed race promoter with USA Cycling, which is our sanctioning body. I spoke with them recently, and they would permit us for such an event and cover us and the town with insurance.
So I'll make a motion to approve the request to hold a trail cleanup event November 10th,
Yeah.
2018, as submitted by Laurel Bike Club.
A second.
Alright, so that fits. So we don't have a trail master anymore, right?
We do not.
Mike
Do not.
Cruz.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have no town authority, if you will, that presides over these trails. So-
I believe, I know from having gone to some of the Conservation Commission meetings that they seem to have a good amount of discussion on that.
And they may have a good amount of concern, but they're not charged with.
I think it's the Board of Selectmen who sort of
Oh, the Board of
oversees, yeah, okay.
Okay, so that we could delegate that to somebody.
Mhm.
Like Tony, he needs a job.
I'm gonna say
I
that.
nominate-
He just doesn't have enough to do. No, but, so we could, I guess my
I
point is.
think you should do it, Joe.
Uh-huh.
I'll throw it right back at you.
Trail master's an unpaid position, though, is it not?
It is a,
It always
Mike,
was,
it
yeah.
always
He always
unpaid.
volunteered, Mike.
Right.
It was a volunteer, but
Mhm.
I guess my only point is, I'm all for having this, but I think we have to have some accountability to somebody as to what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it and that kind of thing. Someone's gotta be
Legally
in
or-
charge.
I hate to say it, but he didn't have a bad idea. It should come maybe under the town administrator.
Yeah, okay,
Tony.
fine.
Well, he can delegate.
And I'll
to
delegate it,
whomever,
yeah.
But
You'll delegate it.
somebody
I'll take
in
care of
the
it.
town has to, we can't just let anybody go and start, doing.
We will
that.
definitely
I'm
coordinate
not
with,
ascribing any intentions to you guys, but I just think that we have to have some.
We will do that.
Control and
Yep.
accountability of.
not a problem.
And then the insurance, yeah, you'd have to.
Yeah, we would provide insurance certificates
Yeah.
to you.
Now, the insurance for your cleanup, or is it for the potential of having some sort of an event on the trails?
Currently, this insurance would be for the cleanup
Just for
event.
cleanup,
Yeah, I do promote regular, or a fair amount of bike races,
Mhm.
that would potentially have, that could potentially come to Woodbridge. I'm tentatively happy with all my locations.
I understand.
But I do own a business in town, so I have some interest in bringing them here. We've explored the options of bringing like road races to Woodbridge before, but they would sanction this trail day and any events that we would do further down the line. It's kind of a dream of mine to always bring an event here.
Right.
But the logistics behind that are complicated, and the state of the trails wouldn't allow it currently. Part of why we're here.
Do you have any intention of making this a
Regular.
annual or regular type of a thing where you would do the
There's
trails?
potential. I mean, Bruce and I do a fair amount of trail maintenance on our regular trails that we tend to frequent. Ideally, we would keep these trails as clean as possible. Something like an annual trail day would make sense. Maybe biannual, by spring fall would probably.
If it's successful, we'd like to see it move forward with
Yeah.
biannual maintenance,
Okay.
given the storms you had and the state of the trees and the lack of a regular caretaker. We think it makes sense because we're regular users and it's multi-use.
Yeah.
Do you have hours on this, what the hours of the event?
What hours
Starting
of
in-
the day they would be?
Yeah, roughly.
Probably on the earlier side.
Okay,
Going into early afternoon.
okay.
Off the top of my head, something like 9 o'clock to noon would be probably what we'd want to do. We're hoping to have a fair amount of volunteers. A dozen is what we're hoping for.
We'll do a 9 to 12-ish.
Okay.
That's how I show up at events,
Yeah, 9 to
ish.
12-ish.
That's how I roll. Okay,
Motion second.
okay, do we have any other questions? I think Joe was,
I don't
that
have
was a
any
good
other
idea you
questions.
had, sorry,
So,
Tony.
thank
Yeah,
you.
no,
You got it,
fine.
Thank you,
okay.
it's a
Take
tremendous
care of it.
offer. and
Anything
so
else?
no more discussion.
Okay, all right, I'll call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Have at it, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting.
But this
Okay.
brings up the question of how do we secure a trail master since we have a need?
You're on it, David, go for it.
I nominate
I'm good
Dr.
tonight.
Lola.
I'm making assignments.
Well,
don't-
the answer is we just solicit for someone who wants to
Right, I have been
volunteer.
asking, believe me, every chance I
mean,
get, so
we
if you
could-
have
Do we have
someone,
anything on our website, for instance, that says we're looking for?
we do
I don't know.
not, I
Don't
don't
Boy Scouts
think.
usually look for projects, right? right? Don't they?
Yeah,
I
but
don't
we
know,
need
is that
somebody
their
like
thing?
more.
Like a troop leader?
But I think what we're looking for is somebody to oversee.
I've tried that.
and-
I had a couple of folks and
Tony,
Well, I'll bring it to Coop Hop for a start.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
might have somebody.
Maybe somebody,
You get Nancy Coop
Okay,
involved.
just to find someone, not to have them take it over. Okay. Okay, great. We'll go back to ordinance if that's okay. We'll do item 8 as well, cause you guys are sitting here patiently. Request permission to add food trucks and music to an event, for the Woodbridge Dog Park Cooperative on October 28th, correct? Okay, and I believe it's going to be at the Town Green.
Town Green. So
Okay.
there were two things when Ramey came here last month. We'll be much better organized. This is the first annual Great Pumpkin Fest. By next year, we'll be so organized. But I sort of pressured the team to do this really fast to try to tag onto the end of the Fallapalooza. And so it was a big scramble. And I'm trying to delegate, and it's not going so well. So, communications aren't always great. We're working on it. As we get bigger, it gets like out of control. Betsy has been there to help us, and the two things that someone makes
Did you say you're Bonnie Blake and?
I'm sorry, I am
Mary Beth Wilmer.
Right, just for the,
so
the
president
television
and
audience.
treasurer of the
Yep.
newly formed 501c3.
Thank you.
Were approved.
got it.
Any case, there was presumptions made. I wasn't here at the last meeting when Ramey asked, and she was presuming that food trucks would be okay and presuming that the electricity could be used in the gazebo without having advised Betsy. So that's what we wanna do. We went to the child center event and studied what they did and talked to them, and actually they didn't know how to post stuff on Facebook, so I posted their event on 3 sites on Facebook for them, and they put up some flyers for us. And so we wanted to have 2 or 3 food trucks, not as many as, cause we're not doing dinners midday. So we got approval, we got confirmed for the Woodbridge, the fire dog truck, cause you kinda have to have it. It has a big hot dog on the side. And the other one is, oh my God.
That's okay.
Rainey's
It's
supposed
just
to
3 trucks.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
You don't care who they are. All right,
Well,
so.
I do, well, for eating purposes I do, but
Oh.
I think we need to know.
Well, we had Shoreline Prime Meats, fire dog truck, and there was the kebab. All these were at but the kebab guy found out that he had to go in and to the police department and swear and sign and blah blah blah, and said he doesn't have time for that. He was annoyed that we asked him. And we had a dessert truck too that said they already have the QV's Quebec Valley Health District health permit, but they just didn't want to take the time to come in to the police department at this busy time of year. Anyone knows an ice cream truck that's available, let me know. We just
have you talked to 4 Flowers?
we did. Nicole Danzello had done all this work, and then she went out of town, and apparently they didn't get back to her. So we'll try again because they just got permitted and had the QV's. I can't say that, you know what I'm saying, Quebec Valley Health.
Yeah.
So we'll try again, but no more than 3.
Okay.
They will have everything Betsy said, which is the Woodbridge permit, determination that the naming also Woodbridge as on the insurance.
Additional insurance.
I drove back here like a bat out of you know what when I found out Ramey was sick and wasn't gonna be here, so I'm a little scattered. So the insurance, the health and the permit, they will have those for sure. The electricity for the gazebo is simply one of our young board members has a sound system with a microphone attached, and since we're having a costume parade and contest, and we have Karen Lombardi as a judge and Frank Capiello and our honorable first selectmen as judges of the dog. So bring your dogs in costume. You can come in costume too. So we wanted like a little microphone of some sort. So I don't know what the what the deal is with having electricity turned on since it's not on all the time. So what I understand is that we have to get permission to have that turned on, and we have to get a custodian because if we're having food trucks there, we'd have to pay for a minimum of 4 hours a custodian.
Right.
And what else am I missing?
So I'll make a motion to approve permission to the Woodbridge Dog Park Cooperative to have the event on October 28th with 3 food trucks and the electrical turned on at the gazebo to support the music for the event.
And
Second.
what are the hours?
So it's 1 to 3 on Sunday
Okay.
the 28th.
Great.
And,
Got it.
before you, oh, I'm sorry, you wanna finish that one?
No, I think we're,
Well,
Okay.
no, 'cause there was another screw up, so they were supposed to have submitted
Uh-oh.
a request for signs. And, so you're talking about like the sandwich boards like realtors use for open houses in the same old places. But I don't know what the Fallapalooza's doing, so we don't, I'm sure you don't have 50,000 signs, but we wanted something at the same old places, Triangle Firehouse, Center Amity intersection, Racebook, Bremen, Ansonia, 4 maximum, wherever you usually do it.
are we?
So I will revise the motion to add approval for
Thank you.
sandwich signs at those stated locations.
I was second.
So now do we have signs at those locations
Is there a
now?
conflict
Like, is there a
For,
conflict?
I don't know what's there right now,
Or
but
anything
there's-
expected between now and the
Living
28th?
treasures.
So I'm not sure
Yeah, those
because
can come down. I saw
the permits
that.
go through the building office downstairs through zoning. So I don't know what's slated to go up
Okay.
or what might currently be up, but Fallapalooza is not doing any particular signage because there's so many events as part of the umbrella of Fallapalooza.
Alright, so as long as that's on it, then I'll just work with you on the details.
sounds good.
Good?
Okay.
Keep it
Any
short
other
and sweet.
questions?
And well, you know, they have to exhibit all the insurance and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, but,
You know about that, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna have permits, I guess, from the police
Permits,
department as well as,
insurance.
we have to have
Yeah.
copies of everything you have, okay, including your insurance.
So we look
Okay.
at all those details and make sure we're in compliance.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Alright, thank you.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Bonnie,
Did
are you
anyone second?
Yeah, Joe.
Joe.
Yeah,
Joe,
okay.
are you putting this
We're
on
gonna
the
go
Winthrop
back.
Bethany Residents Alliance, forum page?
We will, yeah. We didn't wanna put anything more up until we got square with you guys. Alright, thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. We're gonna, flip back to item 5, committee reports. Mika is gonna report on ordinance committee. We had a meeting.
We did have a meeting, this past month in regard to, or this month in regard to the ordinance. There were 4 topics that we discussed. There was solid waste and recycling, which we received an update in terms of where we are with that. We're waiting for what we're waiting for is for us to determine exactly what we're going to do from a scale and
Right.
a fee standpoint.
Correct.
Before we do anything else to modify the ordinance. Stormwater management, we're expecting an update and some additional information with the assistance of Fuss and O'Neill so that we can develop the language and Jerry can approve the language so that we can look at what we need to do on that ordinance, and that's related to making sure we come up to state mandates and we meet those. We also had a discussion as relates to the agricultural commission or the forming of the agricultural commission. There was a considerable amount of public comment in regard to that. We've identified that there are a couple of questions that still exist. One very important is whether indeed a grant is very specifically related to having an agricultural commission. So there is some communication going out to the state and to Connecticut Farmland Executive Director to try to make sure we have that completely resolved. We decided that what we would do is collect the information and meet again and review this again at our next meeting. And the last item that we reviewed was related to blight and reinstituting or putting in again some language as relates to overgrown grass specifically. That language is being developed by town attorney Jerry.
Language is done, I sent it to you guys tonight.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I
Great,
sent it last
fantastic,
week,
so
but
that we
didn't
can, so that we can, take a look at that and be prepared in the next meeting to vote on that as well. So those are the items that we went over at the meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, item 10, 824 response from Town Plan and Zoning regarding the Massaro Farm parking. We received a request, or actually we sent a request to TP&Z on May 11th, asking for an 824 review, and on June 8th, it's in your packet. The commission acted to find the proposal as shown on the foregoing plans to be in conformity with the town plan of conservation and development. So I don't think there's any action at this point, correct?
You just
They're
accept their report.
We
and
accept
they-
their
they
report,
approve it.
and then Massaro Farm will have at it in terms of,
We
Starting
don't
the-
need to move to accept
You don't need to
it.
move it.
okay.
No, you only have to move if you wanna reject it, you have the opportunity to reject it.
Does anyone would like to reject it?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Not particularly.
Item 11 is the Homeland Security Grant Program, Emergency Operations Center Equipment, and I'm gonna ask Tony just to explain this.
This is a resolution authorizing the Homeland Security grant for use by the police department. The police department is going to outfit its EOC. It's at the tip of
Emergency
my tongue.
Operations Center.
EOC, yeah. Their emergency operations center with updated equipment and computers and that sort of thing, so that it can be updated for a storm and emergency.
So we need a resolution authorizing me on behalf of the Board of Selectmen
Correct.
to sign
To
this,
sign the
correct?
documents, correct, yep.
So is there a motion?
So I'll
to
make a
vote?
motion to authorize, the first, selectman to sign the resolution that's in our packet.
Second.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving right along to item 12, the Administrative Officer's Report.
Thank you.
Have Tony take it.
The report is through the first quarter of the fiscal year, and the result surplus about $115,000. So our fund balance is currently a little over 11% of our annual expenses, and that's about $5.5 million. The interest income is doing well this year, as we can will generate a surplus of about $50,000. As you recall from a previous meeting, the elimination of a payroll clerk position in finance generates a savings or surplus of about $40,000 in the finance department, and related benefits costs of about $28,000 to $30,000. The library also eliminated a bookkeeper position, and so there's a surplus in the library of about $15,000. And the town is currently, you've probably heard a little bit about our recycling, the recycling crisis or looming recycling issue as it relates to mainly plastics and glass. And what I can tell you is we used to probably get, it was like $16 a ton we used to get for our recycling. We have single stream recycling where it's all combined. We're now going to be paying probably $30 a ton to get rid of our recycling. And a lot of it has to do with the marketability of the plastic and the glass that contaminates the plastic as it's broken or during the single stream recycling process. That's one of the issues. So as a result, this is came up relatively recent, and so we'll probably have a deficit in the waste management department of about $20,000 this year. We hope to offset that, however, with the fees that we plan to collect at the transfer station later on in the year.
Just a
So
quick
that's one option, is to charge a tip fee to the haulers for recycling stuff that comes in.
Is it also an option to go back to a multiple stream?
That's being discussed, yes,
'Cause
actually.
when you said that, it just
Yeah.
hit me that if the issue is
The
they're
glass,
all
particularly the
single
glass.
stream,
Yeah,
if we segregated them.
I guess the
maybe-
glass breaks and then, the
Right.
little pieces get into,
It's easier for the homeowner, but it's,
It's a lot, I mean,
I
I
do
do
it,
it
it's
myself,
great,
and the
boom.
big, it's easy for
I
us,
know.
but if it
one of the
costs that
issues
much more
is
money.
the complexity and what you exactly recycle and what you don't recycle, and it's not that clear to folks,
Right.
Right? I mean, I know the Sustainability Committee discusses this a lot.
yep.
Yeah. So,
Are there, I'm sorry.
it should be, it's not quite as simple. I know everybody, when I went to a seminar, they likened it to, everybody knows what a stop sign is. When you see it, you know exactly what you're supposed to do. But not everybody knows, do you recycle this, do you recycle that, do you include?
It's actually a bad idea, cause you're not gonna change people from single stream back to multiple,
Right.
it's just not gonna happen.
Right.
Well,
Well,
different
well, you
companies
could
have
if the
different things
hauler
that
won't
they'll
pick it
take,
up.
like different
Yeah, but it's
haulers, some take like a number 3 and some don't, like it's
Really?
it's
Right,
not
right.
consistent.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's
Yeah, when we checked around, like our neighbors get something picked up that we don't, like
Oh.
pizza
type of
boxes.
plastic, right.
Interesting.
It's not consistent, that's true.
We can't recycle pizza boxes, but our neighbors can.
No, you can't.
Do you agree?
In the state you can. So a lot of it has to do with education around the changing laws. So that would be part of a public education approach for recycling. As we make changes at the transfer station,
Right.
we'll definitely have to inform people.
There were a couple of Eagle Scouts who have mentioned that they were looking for different projects. I'm just wondering if we could tie an education program to something that they do with the help of getting some background from the state or whoever who knows the best way to approach these things for some of these guys to really work
Yeah.
on something along those lines.
So the
It's a good idea.
Sustainability Committee is looking to put together teams of people who would come together and help on things like getting information out. So Boy Scouts an ideal way
Yep.
to get information out.
It's good.
So we'll get them on the team.
Okay,
Well,
so,
the other thing is, you'd like to get 100% compliance on that, but, you could shoot for some number short of 100%.
one of the selling points of recycling is that it was supposed to save money.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we pay $63 a ton for solid waste, and we were getting, 16 for recycling. Now, the difference between what we pay for recycling and solid waste are starting to come together.
Yeah, why recycle?
Event- so why-
Right.
right,
Well, that's the whole thing.
that's the
with-
whole point,
If
right.
you try to change people out of single stream, they just won't recycle. They'll
Right.
throw it in so you.
But it's not just the money, it's also
It's not, but-
it's an
True.
environmental issue, which is important.
True, but anyway.
You're gonna
Important-
live,
it's
you're gonna live a long
important.
time, it'll matter to you, won't matter to me.
Oh, no.
You gotta make it easy.
That's it for monthly report?
That's it, yeah.
Great. Okay, item B, tax refunds. You have in your packet from tax collector Pat Crisco. There are no personal property refunds. Real estate refunds are $223.62. Motor vehicle refunds are $2,294.20. I will make a motion that we approve refunds for October of the total of $2,517.82. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Funding requests.
There's one funding request. It's for the donation of the funds for the garden that was going to be installed here. So we would collect the funds and then spend the money on the installation of the flowers and plants on the location over there. So it's
The garden,
$30,000
yeah.
for the garden and $750 for a tree. So everybody knows that.
Whose tree is that?
That's the tree that you all agreed to.
It's your tree.
That's our tree. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve light item transfer 1819-03 in the amount of $30,750. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions,
Just a
discussions?
quick question, in
No.
terms
Sure.
of the $30,000, is there any recognition or anything going to the,
We haven't quite finalized the process
okay?
but the town will receive the $30,000 and then
Yeah, I just wanna
spend
make it clear, because it says funding request for those. It's a
It's
line item.
Correct.
Those
It
are
is.
that's donated money.
That's correct.
It's coming
It's not
from a
costing the town
donation
anything.
to
That's correct.
parks.
That's
Just want
correct.
people to-
Right.
It's not costing the
Good
town
point.
anything.
Yep, thank you. Any other questions, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's see. Information technology review report from the Amity IT staff.
So the Amity IT staff is not going to be here this evening. I can tell you that they've been here for 6 months now, and it's going well. We had originally a server replacement project that was funded from the town, and we put that on hold because we wanted Amity to get on board and have an evaluation. At the same time, the police department is also needs a server replacement. So the Amity is helping us to develop that, and we're actually doing an analysis of our network to better optimize the installation of those servers and switches. And I was hopeful that they would be here to discuss this in more technical terms, but I will have them here for our next meeting. And it looks like the town will need a little bit of extra money for some switches that we didn't budget for, and the police will have, their request in their capital budget for next year.
Is that designed to get everybody on the same network?
There are some limitations to that, yes, to have us more uniform. There are some limitations to it because the police department has there's an issue with privacy and the fact that if you're not a licensed officer, you cannot have access to certain data. So they have certain, again, they'll be able to explain this in more detail, but it's not like we can use the same set of equipment because they have these privacy issues that we are not allowed to mingle our information.
I'm not gonna say I understand, but I hear what you're saying.
It's
But I don't understand only because I'm not technical enough, but Amity is servicing all our technological needs
That's
at the
correct.
moment, not, they don't have a separate.
No,
technology.
they service the town and the police department, right.
Now, there was discussion on the fact that the fire department was on a different using different vendor.
Mhm.
Is that being migrated?
We are starting to look in more cooperatively with the fire department,
Okay.
and the fire department doesn't have the same privacy issues that the police does. So I've been in discussions with the chief about actually sharing servers with the fire department because
Right.
they have a request for next year. So I'm hoping that we can all sort of share where we can and not have 3 different silos. That's sort of the
Right.
idea here.
Yeah.
And we've made a lot of progress in the last 6 months. So, but there's some, we need to spend some money on upgrading our infrastructure. Ours is about 5 years it's been since we've done this, so ours is getting old and we need to upgrade it. So, that's it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Item E is bid waiver. I don't have anything in my packet, but.
There's a
that's
letter
because
from the
it's-
chief.
Got it, okay.
Was that handed out in the package?
No, I didn't get it, but maybe you guys got it.
Did you get it?
I don't see it, no.
No?
Mrs. Shaw strikes again.
I can explain what it is. The police department would like to, it's in their budget. They want to purchase an AFIS machine, which is an automatic fingerprint type of machine. I don't know if you've ever used it.
Yep,
It's kind of cool where you just sort of,
no more ink.
no, right. And so it's a sole source vendor that the state police uses and the state recommends. And so it's more of a purchasing issue.
It's in their budget,
Correct.
it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we wait the
Second.
bid process
The bid waiver as discussed.
as
Okay.
discussed
Yeah.
for the
Joe seconded it.
machine.
Any questions?
Oh, no,
What's your
I was
question?
just gonna vote
Oh,
for
okay.
it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I have an
I think
ad.
you have another, right?
Yeah.
Or an ad?
I'd like to add to the agenda our electricity contract.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we add the electricity contract to the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So the town is in a electricity cooperative with the Woodbridge Board of Ed, Amity Regional District, Orange, Town of Orange, and our current electricity vendor, which we had another 6 months or so on our contract, has canceled our contract. So we have to go back out to the market. Apparently there were some extra charges that were passed through and pricing changes that they would have had to absorb, and so they've canceled our contract.
They had the right to do it,
Really?
Yeah.
yeah.
Without any,
Because they're betting on, if rates go too high, they can cancel, and then we have to renegotiate with somebody else.
That's probably all regulated, right?
Yes.
Department, so,
Yeah. So we have to go back out and get the pricing. So that's you need to authorize me to do that because the pricing is what it is when we go out to get the pricing. I can't
otherwise we
come
sit
back
here in the
here.
dark.
Right.
Otherwise we'll do some kind of a special meeting when he has come up with it.
Because it's pricing at the time. I
Right.
can't say, all right, I'm gonna need to wait 2 weeks and go to the board and get
Right.
approval for 7
Yeah.
cents a kilowatt or whatever it is.
So the approval is not only to have you negotiate, but to have you enter into
Correct.
the best
Yes.
deal that you see, right?
That's
So
correct.
it's not coming back here.
That's correct.
Right.
And to enter into
So-
the contract that's as a result of that, which
Right.
the town council will review
So
for us.
Joe's motion includes allowing you to enter into the deal that you negotiate, right?
Right.
I'll second that motion.
All right, any discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Relevant to
That's it.
electricity, do we have a plan going forward to get involved in installing solar panels on the town buildings?
So there is a sustainability committee focus on energy use of town buildings, and that would include an energy plan for the town of Woodbridge that the sustainability committee is looking to finalize from the previous energy task force and bring forward to the selectmen for consideration.
Is that a yes?
Yes,
Oh,
there's a
that makes
long
sense.
yes. Sorry.
Don't forget also, we had looked at a field, basically, at one
Acorn Hill.
time. At the
The
Acorn Hill, at the
transfer
old
station.
transfer station,
Right.
Or the CCW.
or the CC. So, just following that up, there may be other areas in town where we could generate even more, I don't know, we kind of put that on hold. But,
Okay, thank you. Item 13 is Assistant Administrative Officer's Report. Betsy?
So in your packet, you'll see a short list of items that we would like to put up for sale at an auction. The town of Orange holds an auction, I believe it's every year, and we've participated in the past. And these are two trucks. You see a ladder truck from 1976 and a pickup truck from 1997 that the town no longer needs, and we're seeking approval to sell these items at auction. The auction will be held in early November in Orange.
Just to get the discussion started, I'll make a motion that we authorize, who does this, the actual?
Is it orange?
Authorize
Yes, Orange
Town
has
of
the
Orange
auction.
does the
Orange.
actual, actual
to
auction, yeah.
sell at the auction, or
I'll
attempt to sell
I'll second.
the American Advance ladder truck and the GMC Sierra pickup truck.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
This is where we sold the.
All the golf equipment,
Yeah.
yeah.
Golf equipment.
Mhm.
Is there any discussion further? All in favor?
Yeah,
No,
David, no,
I have-
David
Oh.
has
I have
David.
discussion, So this ladder truck that we have that's the one that's stored by the old firehouse.
Correct.
Correct.
And I assume that it's not functioning.
My understanding is, what do you mean by functioning? It's no longer usable
Well,
for
okay.
a,
For
as
its
a,
intended
it's
purpose.
no
For its
longer
intended
usable for
purpose,
its intended
correct.
purposes. Yeah. I would just like to clarify that if we auction this truck, we won't have this used as a reason for getting a new ladder truck, since this is not part of the working inventory. Is that correct?
This is.
they already have a
They have that.
replacement ladder
Right.
truck.
There you go.
I understand they
Yeah.
have a replacement ladder truck.
Well, we can't say for perpetuity they can't have a new ladder
I'm
truck,
not
so.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not clear what you're.
What I'm saying is, the ladder truck that they have is from the 1980s, okay, which is not that much younger than the one that they're getting rid of. So what I don't wanna hear is in 6 months, the fire department comes and say, you auctioned off our fire truck, now we need a new fire truck, and we need a, $1.5 million fire truck.
Well, this they
Hey,
can't
we-
use no matter what.
I understand that.
Just to clarify that, they're already asking for a new ladder truck,
Right.
so they're not gonna,
It's
it's
in
not
the
gonna be
capital
6
budget
months.
for
Right.
6 or
But
7
they've
years
already-
from now.
They're asking,
Right.
but
I
I don't
agree.
want this to be an impetus of, you sold our fire truck, we need to replace it.
They
That's
can't,
all.
this is not used.
I don't.
That's what I'm saying,
I
it's
don't think we
not
can make that
usable.
as part of the motion though,
No.
because what if their
No,
ladder
no,
truck
I'm not making this part of
explodes?
the motion, I just wanted to get into the public record.
Fine, okay. So we have a motion and second. Any other
Yeah.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item 14, communication grant writers report. We got you in.
I have
Oh,
a few more things,
Betsy,
but why
I'm
don't you go
sorry.
first and we'll come back to me.
Okay.
Because you have to go.
Sorry, Betsy, I thought you were
That's
finished.
okay.
I'm so
Oh, yeah.
sorry. I just saw auction and I'm zooming. Okay.
Very good.
Sorry,
Okay, so
apologies.
Sustainable Connecticut, in your packet under correspondence was a letter we received October 2nd informing us that we have received bronze certification. Yay.
Excellent.
That was year 1.
Yep.
We are off and running on year 2 now. We're looking for silver certification. And the Sustainability Committee has already begun to talk about what items are gonna get us there. So I'm gonna give you briefly, there are 2 main focuses: town building energy use, which includes Beecher Road School, the town hall itself, which is approaching its 100th year anniversary next year. built in 1919, will be 100 years old next year. So we're looking at ways that we can increase energy efficiency. Yeah, you're sitting in a very historic building, right?
Yikes.
So energy use all around, including solar, and an energy plan that will come, of course, before the Board of Selectmen to be considered. So in addition, the other focus area is this looming waste crisis that Tony mentioned. So it's recycle, we need to increase our rate of recycling, we need to reduce our rate of solid waste disposal, because it's getting very expensive, very difficult to dispose of solid waste. We're gonna do that hopefully by increasing food composting, get people to not put food discards into solid waste, makes it very heavy. That is the heaviest component of solid waste. In addition, we want to recycle additional items. So we're currently doing electronics and paint. Other communities do sheet plastic, mattresses. There are a lot of varieties of things we could be trying to recycle. There will be a lot of educational outreach to the community, and you need to do things in your household as well as at a town level, but the town can encourage that. So those are going to be the main focus areas for next year. In addition, in your packet, you'll see the Community Resilience Building Workshop. Lots of members took part in this, some Board of Selectmen members, as well as staff members. Back in July, this was the result of that mini grant that we're awarded back in May. So their final report is here. It can become the basis of future grant submissions, because we have such a report that really outlines what our needs are going to be. So things like pre-hazard mitigation. This report is showing us that flooding and trees are two major hazards that the town of Woodbridge needs to contend with, and that all has to do with climate change and the increase in storms, etc. So very timely report for us to receive. We're going to work on next steps for that. A couple of other smaller focus areas will be complete streets. We've put together a complete streets team that's looking at transportation kind of all across the board, and it includes bikes and trails. So it was timely again tonight. You see this interest in making our trails more able to be traversed, both for enjoyment but also to get from place to place. So there was a component of people at our Complete Streets, our initial meeting, who were very interested in biking, so we're likely to hear more. We'll try to get people involved on that level. And then lastly, the agricultural and food, including kind of economic development aspects of that. So with regard to agriculture, getting our farms on the map so that people can come and visit if agritourism is something they want to do, and also our restaurants and other places we can eat. So those are things that would help attract visitors to Woodbridge, who hopefully will come spend some time in our community, maybe patronize our businesses in the business district, maybe potentially move to Woodbridge. So that is that. I am going to go over to this FEMA sort of collection of data to see if we can get some FEMA funds. That meeting is tonight, and then another one tomorrow morning. If anyone is listening to this at a later date, wants to be in touch, we do have to get some data to the federal government. It's being collected by the state, but it does have to come by the 15th, which is Monday, so get in touch with us if you've got any additional information you want included in that. And then lastly, at the SCRUG meeting last week, we had put in for to get on a transportation improvement program list of priorities for fiscal 19. We got our Peck Hill Road paving project for $1.5 million included on a list of priorities. So should funding become available, we're prioritized with other communities as well. So that's the grant update, as well as sustainability. And now I'm going to go.
Thank
Sheila,
you.
just real quick in terms of where you're heading for. I know somebody had made a comment who works down in the Bradley Road area.
Business
there.
district, yeah.
Right, in the business district. How the work that was done as far as that bridge reconstruction, that whole water problem that we were having down there with this latest big rainfall, it seemed that, at least he indicated that, it seemed to have really done very, very well, and as compared to what it was like previous to the work being done.
Yes.
I'm just curious, if that is the case, it's a great.
Well, as we've improved our infrastructure, storms have increased.
Right.
So we're keeping pace, hopefully. We're going to be hearing about the kind of damage that was sustained, and in this workshop, the findings will show you that we know we need to do some more work to prepare for future hazards. They're gonna keep coming.
A quick question on composting, is this gonna
Yeah.
be at the landfill, is this gonna be at the home sites?
So, it is difficult to do it as a collection at the landfill. It requires, well, the transfer station, let's call it. That would require, a lot of regulations, a lot of paperwork. What we'd like to do, as far as the sustainability committee is concerned, is first encourage homeowners and, residents to do their composting on site. There were some concerns that that's gonna attract wild animals to your property. I attended a workshop in Newtown about 2 weeks ago. I mentioned that as one of the concerns, and the person running the workshop said, you need to be doing your composting correctly.
Right,
You need to
can't-
educate everybody how to do it.
Can't throw meat in there.
Right, so that is one of the first things we're gonna do, is have some, community meetings and workshops and do the training and see if we can get a hold of some grant funding to get some compost bins that we can demonstrate and educate people. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you. Good luck. Remind them all,
I will let you know tomorrow.
no guarantees.
Yeah.
Oh, make it clear, but we're trying. Okay, good luck. Betsy, back to you, sorry.
That's okay. So I just wanted to give everyone a few updates on things that we've been working on. I've been working closely with the senior center and a committee there to come up with a plan to do renovations to the senior center. And the committee has awarded the work to Silver Petroselli. We saw David Stein here tonight talking about a different project he's helping the town with. The majority of the work it's contemplated will be cosmetic, so things like paint, flooring, new lighting, that type of thing, to really improve the mood at the senior center, the physical mood. You all have an update of a flyer outlining what's going on for Fallapalooza. There were so many events this year that we couldn't fit them all on the flyer, so there are a few events that were added after the flyer was printed, so there are more details on the town website. Quick update on the beautification plan. I've received feedback from Human Services, the Library Commission, Recreation, CUPOP, and I plan to speak with TPZ, and I'm hoping to get a report to you all in November for finalization and feedback from you. And I am going to also, hopefully for November, work on a procedure or event checklist for use of the town green. As you all have probably noticed, we seem to be getting more and more requests for use of the green for events and mini festivals. And instead of having the folks come in here and wait around for the meeting and take up all of your time to talk about technicalities like insurance and permits, I thought it might be easier for everyone involved if we had a procedure in-house, and if it's to your liking, I could take care of the back end of things and just tell you what's been approved and what's being happened, or I could present it to you in a very quick way to save their time and save your time. So that's something I'll be working on between now and November. And lastly, I just wanted to give you a really high-level thought on what I plan to be doing with our economic development work going forward. So my hope is to meet regularly, weekly if possible, with local businesses. I have a great questionnaire that I got from CERC that they've used in other towns, so that I'm asking the right questions, and I can, after a while, look at the data in aggregate and notice if there are any trends and larger issues that need to be addressed by the town. I hope to meet with major landlords in the business district. We'll be using the Plattus report as a guide. That's something that the Economic Development Commission commissioned maybe in 2014, I think it was, and it's a really high-level vision document for what the business district could look like. And also hope to be finding ways to make our wayfinding plan a reality and create a guide for new businesses so that it's very clear and easy for them to figure out what all the steps are they need to take in order to get everything approved and be able to open their business here in town. So that's just a few of the things that I hope to be working on the next several months.
Hey, just a thought, you mentioned what you were gonna do about use of the town green, which I think is great. Along those lines, maybe we could add into that same process
The banners?
that we just saw, so that people don't have to wait here a half hour and we don't have to say, yeah, you can do the banner, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
not
it's the
sure
same
we've
type of
ever
thing.
disapproved the banner, you know, we put conditions on them or whatever.
Right.
But you could do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah. That's it.
I thought it was a good idea, thank you, thanks for skipping out and coming back, okay. Item 15 on the agenda is acknowledgement of the town clerk's, report. I'll make a motion that we approve the, town clerk's report, the monthly September 1st to September 30th, 2018, and the annual July 1, 2018 through September 30th, 2018. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 16 is the town council's report.
So, very quickly, I just wanted to give you an update on the subsidence issue with 6 Warren Road, which has been going on for at least a couple of years. 6 Warren Road is a house that suffered what is known as subsidence. The house was sinking because of improper fill that was used underneath the house. And there was a program that Senator Crisco actually developed when he was in the legislature, where he obtained bonding to help homeowners repair the effects of the subsidence. It involved some homes in Woodbridge and many homes in Westville. The homes in Woodbridge, it turned out there was one house that really qualified, one and maybe a second one, but we're really dealing now with down to one house, the 6 Warren Road, that might have qualified for subsidence. The cost, that what happens is the state, in the state program, the state asked the towns to get appraisals of how much it would cost to repair these homes for their cracking foundations, sinking into the ground, as well as cracking the interior walls, etc. Their initial repairs to estimate were in the $200,000, $400,000 area, well in excess of what the house was worth, the value of the house. The state said we can't, in good conscience, give $300,000 to fix a house beyond its fair market value, when we really not even sure. They always debated whether this was really a result of subsidence or some other issue, and whether the repair would actually would fix the problem for this particular house. So we were going back and forth. They took the position, and Tony and I went up and spoke to the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Economic and Community Development, that it was a real stretch for this home to qualify for that kind of money for the repairs. They've come back to us. The homeowner has a lawyer, and I've been talking to our lawyer on a regular basis. The state has come back to us with the idea that they would consider funding and giving the homeowner the fair market value of the house based on 2 appraisals that the town received. The state would reimburse us for the appraisal. This is all state funded. The town has no out-of-pocket expense whatsoever. They would consider getting 2 appraisals, having the average of the 2 appraisals, and providing the homeowner with the funds, providing the town with the funds to buy the house from the homeowner. Then the state would give us money to demolish the house, because they feel there's no ability to rehabilitate the home. And the town would then hire somebody to to demolish it. The state would give us the money to it, and the town would wind up owning the lot that the house is on. This is on 6 Warren Road, right next to Knoll's Pond, abutting Knoll's Pond. So the homeowner is very, very interested in doing that. They would get the house, a couple of Zillow appraisal is in the neighborhood of about $170,000 of fair market value, but the state wants us to get a real estate appraisal from a reputable real estate agent, or not an MAI appraisal, but a regular appraisal to verify that it is worth $170,000. So we're looking into that. Now, lo and behold, the homeowner came up with a different appraisal. Instead of the $300,000 to repair the house, they've come up with an appraisal of about $95,000 to repair the house. And I presented that to the state, and the state said that they would still rather do they were inclined to do the fair market value, although there's no guarantees, because number one, they don't think that the house could be rehabilitated even with the $94,000. So there's no sense in throwing money into it when it's going to have the same condition. So it looks like the homeowner and the state is looking toward that concept. There's a little bit of money left in the fund. Westville, New Haven, has taken a significant amount of money for their homes, which actually were subject to real subsidence that was documented, and that was one of the reasons for the bonding that Senator Crisco and State Rep Pat Dillon obtained. So the board is gonna have to make a decision at some point when we get ready to a number as to whether the board wants the town to do this for its residents and ultimately be responsible, owning the property, owning the lot, which would be a building lot at some point in time. It would, so long as you fix the fill, put all
Right,
new
you'd have-
fill
you'd
in,
have
you
to-
have to start from scratch. Right now, it's basically peat moss, right?
Right.
Tony?
Yeah.
That it was built on, and when the water
Water comes in, then it dries and it
expands,
drops.
and then when the water goes out, it drops. That's
So
what-
we'd have to dig that all out.
You have to get rid of all that.
Refill it.
Yes.
Settle it.
Right.
Well,
Or a builder would.
Or we don't have to, we can just keep it as a, you
Yeah.
don't have to do anything with it,
No
just keep it.
taxes, it's
You don't do
just
it, you
off the
lose the
walls.
taxes, obviously.
Yep, right.
It's a little premature, but I wanted to keep you advised because they do have an attorney who is being very accommodating, but the homeowner has been patient. It's been a very long process, but it's an unusual process. So that's number one. Number two, very quickly in your packet, and there's a cooperative letter, and Sheila asked me to bring this up and to see whether the board, so this came up at the ordinance committee meeting, last week.
It's in our packets?
It should be in your packets.
It's in there,
It's in there.
Okay.
under 16, I think.
It's a document for the first selectman to sign. Select
That's
woman
okay,
to
I've seen
sign.
it, but I don't have it. I guess you guys will get it, it's fine.
Farmland preservation?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
And this is concerning agricultural development of town properties, or potential town purchases. This is a vehicle, if we register this document with the state, the town would be in a position to obtain grants and funds to purchase farmland or there are other grants concerning farmlands. This has come up because of the discussion of the agricultural commission. This will put the town in a position to be able to apply for a grant if one comes up before you make your decision on whether you actually wanna engage an agricultural commission or not. This document authorizes, the town can either do this by way of an agricultural commission or by way of authorizing an agent in the town, such as the Conservation Commission, to be the vehicle to obtain the funds and to purchase the property based on the Board of Selectmen's decision to either go forward or not go forward. So the Conservation would come forward to the town and to the Board of Selectmen and say, we have a piece of property, we'd like to do it, we'd like to do it pursuant to this cooperative letter with the state of Connecticut, which the state would sign. So we would be on file and ready to go in case we needed to have some kind of an emergency, some kind of a purchase very quickly.
These are for agricultural conservation
That's
uses,
it.
so the town would still own the land.
No, this is a program, this specific
How's this
program,
work?
it's a very interesting program, and Sheila knows much more than I do. What happens is the town would find a farmer who the town would buy it, find a farmer, or the farmer would come up, and then the town would sell the
The town already
land.
owns it.
No, this is new acquisition, new property.
New acquisition.
It's like the Baldwin Road piece that they
Right.
purchased, that the land
Okay.
trust is doing now,
Okay.
new acquisitions. This is totally new acquisition. And it's and there may be some grants to preserve some of our existing agricultural properties, that I don't know, but basically this is for new acquisitions. And by approving this, you're authorizing the Conservation Commission to do these, to be the town's agent as, set forth on page 1 of the agreement.
It was my understanding of the ordinance that we were gonna go forward with this because the decision hasn't been made at this point whether or not we're gonna have an agricultural commission. We weren't there yet, and this was something to get the ball rolling.
Right. And if you
Get in
have-
line.
That was my understanding too, but I
Right.
didn't know we had to tie it to conservation.
You need to appoint an agent. It could be anybody. It could be, well, I think it's gotta be somebody other than the first selectman, I think.
What about Tony though?
I guess
I think
my,
the
just
Joe
for the
Dyer
record,
would be
just
great.
for the record,
Back
Joe
up.
and Tony.
I'm gonna follow the good doctor's lead, just for the record, I don't want that to be construed as any way diminishing the conversation about an agriculture.
Correct.
No, and it's
That
not.
was what
Commission
we agreed
because-
upon
Right, and I
at the
think we
commission.
said
I
this
mean, at the
is-
ordinance.
Whether we
committee.
do it or not, I didn't
Correct.
want someone to say, well, we don't need one now because we
Right.
have this.
The whole idea was to just get.
That wasn't
as-
the intent of
I
this.
agree. As we said at the ordinance meeting, it was let's get this ball rolling.
Right.
So we're there, and then we'll have a further ordinance committee meeting to discuss whether or not we're gonna do a commission or something else.
So practically speaking, a piece of property comes up that's suitable for agriculture. Who pays for buying it?
The state.
State
State
pays
funds
for
it, yes. The state funds it. we go out and buy it and we flip it, or the state buys it and then flips it to the town, and the town flips it to a farm. Ultimately, a farmer winds up owning it.
The farmer winds up owning it,
Right.
okay.
There's no specific intent to this. It was, in other words, we don't have a program, a piece of property or
No,
anybody.
no.
Not
This
that I
was
know
just
of.
to be able
Right.
to be in the game if it presented
And
itself.
I
It's
told-
this is just a conduit for.
That's right.
taking
In case
advantage of
something
the program.
comes
Yeah.
up.
Basically, you're buying the development rights, right?
What?
You buy the development.
They buy the development rights, I think that's what it is. And I talked to the woman at the state, I forget what department she's in, I talked to her about it, I called her, and I said, do we need to have this approved, do we need to have a piece of property that we wanna purchase now? She said, no.
No.
It could be for now, but it could also be for future use.
So is there a downside to this? I don't see.
No, that's what we said at the
Yeah.
at the ordinance, there's really no downside to it, especially if you know, keep in mind what Joe just said, that
Sure.
it doesn't prejudice the agricultural.
And the thought was it's just to get it on the books as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, I
So
get
if there's
that.
a need,
Right, should
if
something
there's a
come
need, we
up.
can move forward with that.
Right.
Yeah, that was my reading when I
Right.
looked at it.
Do we need a motion to, alright, I'll make it.
Authorize the first selectman to sign the
To
document.
authorize the first selectman to sign this, cooperative letter of agreement for joint partnership with the Farmland Preservation Program.
And also to designate the Conservation Commission as agent of the town for purposes of, page 1, items 1 through 9.
And that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Where are we here? That's yours, okay. Item 17, minutes. You have in your packet the minutes of the Board of Selectmen regular meeting of September 12th, 2018. I will make a motion that we approve them. Is there a second?
Second.
Any additions, corrections, or edits? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll just
Okay.
abstain because I wasn't there.
Okay, so it's a 5 yes
5
and
to
1 0 nays
Abstention.
and 1 abstention. Thanks, Joe. Okay, you also have in your packet 2 resignations. A letter from Nancy L. Mosback from the Woodbridge Board of Education. We accept her letter of resignation with regret. She's no longer in town. And, Mark Levine has resigned from the CAC Board, Area 2 Cable Advisory Council. He's unable to attend meetings because of other commitments on those meeting dates. So we will also accept that with regret, and we move on to item 19, which is appointments. You have in your packet, first one is appointments to the Woodbridge Board of Ed to fill out the term of Nancy L. Mosback to June 30th, 2019. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Joyce Shavers.
Is there a second?
Second.
You all have your CV or this
Mhm.
letter about
Very
her,
impressive.
okay?
Yep.
Great. Are there any other nominations?
No.
Okay. So, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and second is, what are we doing here?
ZBA
Woodbridge-
alternate.
Yeah, thank you. ZBA alternate to June 30th, 2019. I think Spencer, this is Spencer's
I believe this was
appointment. There's a
Spencer's,
third
yeah.
one, but, we didn't have anybody for the Democratic, but these are elected, so
Right,
you own it.
right. So
is there a
we-
nomination?
We nominate Mr. Edward Weinberg.
Okay, thank you.
And
Is there,
here's a letter in the packet that.
yep. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's all unanimous, thank you. Moving right along, item 20. Should I talk about why we're doing this again? Cause I know some people came late.
Yeah.
I'll just reiterate what I said, cause in the beginning of the meeting, cause I know you weren't here. We were waiting to hear back from Robert Sachs, the developer of Fieldstone Village in Orange, and we're going to go into executive session to discuss the possible negotiation of this in executive session, because it's the first time we're looking at this offer. The Board of Selectmen have not seen it yet. I'm gonna,
sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
okay.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Okay,
It's me.
okay, it's okay, I'll try again. We're going,
So this is about the Fieldstone.
correct,
This is
we've,
not about the other gentleman who was here.
that's correct. We received a proposal, we got it actually on Monday, no one was in the office, so we got it on Tuesday. And because it's, the Board of Selectmen have not seen it yet, and there's, possible negotiation, it's the first time any of these are seeing it, we are going to go into executive session so the board can discuss the proposal, and then we will come out of executive session.
Will you talk about what you discussed afterwards? That's why I'm here, basically.
I'm not sure, because then we have to go back to Robert Sachs with some of the input from the board
So there's no
before.
point in my being here, basically. If I'm not
Correct.
hearing anything, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But I wanted to, before you sat, I just felt bad that I saw you come in, and I just wanted to let you know, that's why. I promise as soon as we can, I will get
Okay.
everything out. I've tried to do that as soon as we are able, but unfortunately, this is the first time, so.
Well, thank you for telling me.
You got it. Okay, so I will make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to section 1-200, parens 6 and parens D and parens D.
Second.
Proposal for the development of the formal country club of Woodbridge property. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and I would invite, as part of the motion, Tony Genovese and Attorney Weiner. Thank you.
So you'll do when you come out of this first one, and when you go into the second one?
Right, because we have to go in secondly
Yeah,
again.
okay.
So you can go home. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the,
Motion and second.
right, we did the
All in
motion.
favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Why turn
We're
that thing off
clear.
here? No.
Yeah.